So welcome to the Digital Economist from the World Economic Forum here in Davos, Switzerland. We are holding our inaugural roundtable, and we're very excited to have a huge turnover and a highly curated roundtable. The Digital Economist is an impact platform focused on thought leadership and bringing investable opportunities in alignment with the Sustainable Development Goals to the fore. So we're very excited to welcome folks on January 23rd this evening, and looking forward to great partnership and a lot of value we create for the community along the way. So welcome.
Thank you, Neelima, again for taking the time to join this wonderful group of people who are joining from all across the globe. And we're pretty excited to have you here. So let's start with first a little bit about your background and your introduction and story. It's very interesting, and being an entrepreneur myself, I can very well relate to the idea of working in a very stable job and then taking this leap. So let's talk. Let's go from the beginning. How your journey was, and how it shaped the wonderful the great company that you're running right now.
It's very kind of you all to speak so highly. I don't want to give our entrepreneurs a wrong idea that is always pretty and always clean. It's going to be down and dirty. So I just wanted to start off with that tone. I'm thankful for where we are. We are not in the imagination of the story being unveiled. We are definitely not at the top of that story. We are still on the journey. It didn't start when I thought I was an entrepreneur. That's the funny part. It started way before. I think it's the same with all of us in this call. It's almost a seed that is waiting to germinate and come out of all of us. So going back to the journey, yes, I've been in corporate world for 15 years. I am a product of two entrepreneurs. So my parents were entrepreneurs as well, business owners, and I've seen my mom owning the company and running the company. So I've had a lot of good role models in my life. I'm thankful for that. I got off wanting to be an engineer. I'm a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, and I did master's in computer sciences. And then in 2000, I started my career as an IT developer. Back then, we did Java coding. It's almost, Java is always fresh, but other areas are almost dwindling down, and newer languages are coming up. 15 years, I changed roles in the industry. I went from being a developer to a designer, architect. I've never wanted to stay in one stable position. It was me, right? When the situation was under control, I would ask for something really turbulent to go into, to try to figure out. So that I'm always in that problem-solving mode, which is good and sometimes really bad as well. So I'll tell you why. So once that I figured out that I'm always wanting to solve a problem, and there is so much around us to solve if we do look for it, right? I think that's where the entrepreneur's mind started working. Close to 4 to 5 years back, when I decided I'm going to go off by my own and start SnapIT. I didn't even name the company at that point. I started actually understanding my community first. Because even though I stayed in this location for 20 years now, for 15 years, I was in a bubble, really in a corporate bubble, in a family bubble, in a good suburban bubble. So I just had to pierce through that bubble and understand what is the world out there. I knew the world more because I was working in a multinational company, and we would be connected to the world. But the society, the local, the area that I'm impacting or I want to be impacted was very less exposed to my day-to-day knowledge. So I started off volunteering my time. At that point, STEM activities were happening, started going into areas that I've never really been. I parked my car in areas that I don't know if my car would be there when I come back. It was really, I would not tell my family that I was going to these areas, but I wanted to go. I wanted to really see what is the world out there. And the more I learned about people, the more safer I felt. That's the funny part. The concept about in the bubble, about outside world was different. When I was getting into these areas and meeting people, them knowing about me, my world started changing. And now I saw that I come from an industry that knows about a problem. We all know tech talent in technology industry is really difficult to find. The more money you give, we're changing jobs for 30, 40, maybe sometimes 100% increase in salary, right? Because the talent is going down, so we're paying more. And then I see in these communities that are smart, extremely good-natured people are not given an opportunity or don't know what the opportunity exists because in their circle, they don't have parents who went through, right? Community that doesn't surround themselves with information to get to this level or this area that I'm talking about. So now I have a problem that I've exposed to for 15 years being in corporate world. And then I see my so-called raw material as an engineer's mind. I'm looking at, this is all the raw material. The only thing people have not either intentionally or unintentionally did not put a process in place. And now I want to see how can I solve this problem given the immense raw material, good raw material, and then form a process that you can take this raw material and convert it into gold. So that's how I started solving a problem. It's not product-based. The entire entrepreneurs community has been and will probably still continue to be concentrated on product-based solving. I went on process-based solving. And I put my money on people more than technology. I put money on God's technology. And it has never been a better way to go through the model. Yes, I faced a lot of difficulties. To be able to build this process, I had to invest my money instead of the money readily available on my table. I'm a women-based business, minority business. I open up a technology company. I have technology background. I can open up a consulting company and make good money. But here I am trying to solve world problem and trying to use my 401k and my investment, my personal savings for 15 years and pay people and take a chance that they will learn this technology within the set time that I can, before I exhaust my savings. But all I was thinking, the first batch that comes through this, like how EIT, your batch is coming through it, the first batch I invest, I had confidence that these people would be my next batch mentors. So that's how the process started. Basically what SnapIT does is we have three main divisions right now in our company. The first division is short-term, high-intense, high-tech training that we have developed, custom trainings that we have developed. We work with workforce agencies in the United States at this point, and we draw into that federal funds where students are not paying for their trainings. We are getting paid for the trainings. And there is a third party who has access to thousands and maybe tens and thousands of families that are walking through their doors. Nobody would not know SnapIT at that point. They would know workforce agencies. So we partnered there. After the training is done, I knew that is not going to be enough. If we don't push through that and continue that pipeline to the next stage And that's where we call it SnapIT Solves. The first stage is SnapIT Trains, second stage is SnapIT Solves, where they're inducted into a pipeline of activities. I found small, medium businesses at one point to invest in us to create products for them at much more affordable prices. They've sat on this for, 40 years. One of the small business we worked with is a trucking company. They've sat on not having a proper technology product for 40 years. And then we partnered in creating a product. And our entrepreneurs, our apprentices are working on that product, having the time needed to be able to develop their skills and on real projects. And the final stage to this evolution would be getting them into high intense, high critical timeline and business critical projects. And that's called SnapIT Pods. We would give about 4 to 5 people in that pod, go get corporates to give us fixed bid. If I don't deliver the project, I don't get a dime out of it. In fact, I may be losing. If I don't do training and apprentice in a proper way, then they're not successful in the final stage. And in this process, 2017, we started, I was just one person by myself and no funding whatsoever from an external source. I self-funded my first 2 batches, and the third batch, even before third year ended, I got good line of credit. Why do we need line of credit? To manage cash flow. As I'm growing, I need more cash flow to be through. So that's the financial story. But I never thought I'm solving this problem. In my mind, I was solving this problem for SnapIT. Now we are talking with Fortune 500 companies and trying to solve their problem. So trying to solve their pipeline problem. So maybe we will add a 4th division to the company where it is a pass-through. We become a pipeline of creating this talent. It's a new university model kind of thing, if you might say. So we are prepping these students who would rather go through a 4-year degree. Now, if you have money and time for it, please go ahead and go do the master's and bachelor's. That's education always is a worthy investment to have. But if you don't, that doesn't mean that you're worth nothing. We are worth nothing. That's the proof. That's what I was trying to prove. And now we stand close to 45 full-time employees. Just this year, we trained close to 150 students in person and virtually in person, live trainings. We have expanded our services beyond 2 states. Now we are close to 5 more states. So we just got it started, let's say.
Thank you, Neelima. That was wonderful. You hit a lot of different points there I can relate to. I think when I started my last company, we took a line of credit on before the product was out there, and we just had the belief that we're going to at some point of time the product expectation and the money we're going to be able to get there. And I think that's a big leap of faith that entrepreneurs take. So thank you for highlighting that. So let's this is a great story. So you came from corporate, you saw the need. Walk us through, getting your first client and, thinking about, and also I think the product market fit, right? I think one of the things that entrepreneurs struggle a lot with is they have, these different ideas, and up until they have traveled that path, they don't know which one is going to succeed. So walk us through, going through the product and process and saying, okay, this is what we want to build, zeroing on it, and then getting your first client.
Sure. That's a good question, I would say. I think there are 3 steps for this question to answer. First is understand your skills. Master your skills inwardly. Don't go out yet. Understand what you enjoy doing. What's your passion? What is your hard skill? What are your soft skills, right? Really do the best you can to educate yourself in those skills, right? And constantly keep update on those skills. Keep your mind fresh, ego down, understand, listen, and really absorb that education. That's the step one, I would say. Once you got your skill down, the second step would be research. In our mind, we may be thinking that we want to solve the problem, but there are so many aspects of solving a problem that comes into place. We need to research and understand what are all the different conditions that would impact this problem, right? And who are the players in this area? I didn't even think about competition because I know that the problem is so intense and immense that I've actually hoped for competition. The more competition that we have, it's like the marketplace that has a lot of restaurants in one place. You'll attract a lot of clients into that area, right? I was hoping for customers. I was hoping for my competition to catch on because I was the first one, at least in the areas that I know of. I was invited to White House to talk about this topic. So I probably assumed I'm probably first one in the United States. So the second would be definitely research, how intense this problem is, who needs this problem, who are you really trying to solve this problem for? Don't tell yourself a story. Listen from others that this is the problem. That's very difficult to understand. And when you listen and understand, then you learn and improve. Because you're not, the solution can be done in multiple ways, right? Only when you listen to your future clients, you would understand. The third, to find the right client, the first client, of course, we made it. My first client, if I remember, came out of nowhere, 100% word of mouth, right? But he was a smaller client. I remember the first meeting that I had with this client. He said, "Are we expecting somebody else?" I was the only one on a technology project. And I said, "No, you're stuck with me. Let's talk about your problem." So we got into the conversation, and my step one, remember, master your trade, that came into play. He walked out of the meeting saying that I don't want anybody else to solve this problem. I want you to solve this problem, right? If we got the research done, then we wouldn't be offended by the negativity that comes our way, the bias that comes and hits our way, whether it is conscious or unconscious, right? That client is still to date my client. Of course, the cheapest client, but he's still there in SnapIT. It's fun. And through that client, I got the big, gigantic, 10 times more worth of a client coming in our door. So understand that the first client that comes your way is more of word of mouth, how you have put yourself out there. People do want business to be done, and they want to do good business with good people, right? If you test yourself, while I was volunteering, I was also assessing, why am I approached more? What are the aspects of myself, right? Are they liking that they are approaching me for? And those aspects could be true aspects, and they could be what I call them as vanity aspects. If people are approaching you more for vanity aspects, then you won't have real check in your bank from a client. You will constantly be giving your vanity aspects away. So hide those vanity aspects where people are approaching you for. Look at ways and say that they're approaching me for my skill, my ability to solve a problem, rather than, oh, I'm really good. Look, it'll look good if I speak because I'm a female and a minority. That's not the aspect you want to go after. Because those are good on TV, but not good on your check.
Thank you, Neelima, for highlighting that. I think as a minority entrepreneur, I've seen it's two-sided story. On one side, you have to sometimes struggle more to make a name, and there are certain biases that come into play in the system. On the other side, you also sometimes have an advantage and an edge So I think you hit the point on its head, which is your core should not be that dynamic. The core should be the service and what you're bringing to the table. And also, I think it's every client wants to be the second first client. Somebody else is, and also the same thing with the businesses as well. But I think the first client that comes through your door is always going to be sort of your measurement, your IoT device, which tells you, I think we used our very first client, which was a city, to build our product. We were so much in, we could walk into the city, and because it was a discounted client, we could always get consistent feedback, and we improved that product. And we always kept them they were, as just you said, our cheapest client, but they were also the client that helped us, to build the product that we were building that had some value in the world.
Yeah.
Right? This is great. I have a couple of questions that our EITs sort of put together. So this one comes from Lavazi, and the question is, what future industries trends are you most excited about? And how do you see emerging markets participating or leading the pathway in these industries?
So, given the conditions that we are in, it's a white elephant right in our, space, right? There's this elephant sitting right there. COVID, other situations that are impacting us emotionally, mentally. I think more than aspect of a particular technology, yes, there are technologies like AR, VR, IoTs, AI, and throw in, we're having a landscape of technology changes happening right now, right? But I think for me, I'm most excited about using them as tools and really adjusting the quality of life we humans are having these days, right? Show me a technology that can make me as effective as I am today with 40 hours or 45 hours of work. That is a technology that I want to sign up for. Because at the same time, as we are embedding our technology, we are not, I love Navroop for her aspects of thinking technology and also living her life. Like she's in Hawaii, enjoying that animal sounds, that little bit of fruit that she can get, and she's in a happy world. She knows what makes her happy, right? The humanness in us, but then doesn't let go of the technology, the badass, aspects of what's happening out there. How do you balance that, right? So other than that philosophical aspect of it, I think technology-wise, there are a lot of fun and innovative technologies that are coming in. I think gaming will disrupt a lot because of our kids sitting at the desktops and trying to learn from their poor teacher who is not able to handle how to get a problem solved for 90 minutes. So I think to keep their butts in the seat through the learning process, I think gaming will change the name of the technology, and more gaming used to bring their own childhood. Like I would imagine my son playing soccer in his backyard and still listening or understanding and creating a virtual world where he is learning a small aspect of what the teacher wants to teach, but still active, right? Rather than 8 hours sitting on his butt, listening or trying to look at his teacher, not able to deal with technology. So those technologies will really change. Everything we are doing right now and have been doing will change. But if we can bring the right technology to make our human life better, that's the technology that I would go for. It's a combination, right? We know right now, there's no one technology that will make it. It's a combination of many things, but it's the concept.
The concept. Completely agree. I think what is important in technology, the modes of technologies that keeps on changing. I think the question always is, I think that it's twofold. One is, how are the user needs changing, right? So, it may be the way we're consuming information right now, maybe on, maps. In tomorrow's world, it might be in the VR or in hologram, right? But the needs, the core needs, are they the same? I think that's always a good question. Let's talk a little bit about scales. So you went from this single person, who was starting with this idea, to now you said, of 45 full employees. So one of the questions, and this comes from Chidi, when setting SnapIT, did you plan to scale from the beginning, from the get-go, or was it, discovering, as you went along?
There was a part of discovering. Like I said, I was trying to solve the problem for myself and trying to get if I'm competing for technology talent with a major corporation that is sitting right in the area, I can't beat that, right? I was trying to solve my problem, and then I discovered that we are about to solve a lot more people's problem. So that was a little more discovery part of it. But I think I'm still opening up the entire plan that was initially done. It's still in the works. So that's the exciting part. I have a great team of accountability team, brilliant people, seriously brilliant people with great hearts and great minds. It's fun to see them still trying to see the next steps. And I have it in my mind, but I wouldn't really open it up because they're already dealing with a lot more complexity than a regular small business. But helping them go towards the area that is already half-baked is the beautiful part of it. So my entire plan is not still done, open yet. It's still yet to come.
Yeah, I think I thought about this question. So, when you're thinking about, solving industry's problems and finding talent, and, given the fact that talent is usually expensive in the US, a lot of companies, a lot of other people would start thinking about or outsourcing, but you went a completely, different route. And so I think about, if you can talk a little bit about it, what affected your decision to think that way. And the other part is, how do you retain, a lot of the talent? Because, small companies, they struggle with the idea of churn because, as soon as you have employees which are really impressive, now how do you build loyalty, and how do you deal with churn?
That's a good question. I believe we lost 2 employees in past 4 years.
Wow. That's a great.
So I think an aspect of culture comes into play, right? We do have about 40% senior staff and 60 of a junior talent that we have developed in the company at this point. 40% is a great big amount of people to retain and keep this in this really unforgiving environment. What I think I've been working on is the aspect of financial equality. I mean, matching outside, that's part of it is there, but ability to bring in humanness out and see that their work and their effort is not only impacting their bottom line paycheck, but also somebody else's life, and somebody else telling them constantly, we share as a team who we mentored and who mentored us, right? And we give the responsibilities are not only given to the high senior staff. Responsibilities are given to the relatively junior staff, and now they are the ones who are mentoring. So the give and take relationship, anybody who values their effort, you have them in your pocket, I think. And if you match them with the relative, market value, they're not constantly thinking about jumping at this point. They're constantly thinking, how can I walk into those doors, and how can I open my laptop and, hey, I'm speaking to these guys. I'm gonna, peer program today. I'm gonna have a hackathon that I'm gonna learn, or, they're constantly in that mode. They're not thinking, how do I get away from this and make more money, right? So maybe that aspect of it, we've lost very few, and I have not hardly let go anybody. And if we do, it takes 6 months to become a SnapIT employee. 3 months of training that we observe them, they're not our employees, and 3 more months of temporary employment while they're going through the half of their apprenticeship program. They know that their probably employment will end after 3 months. Very rarely, it's 90. I'm confidently I can say that 90% of that, or the 3-month extended period, always comes to as an employee. By then, usually you know what the company is, right? If they've decided this is a good company for them, or we are deciding. On the other hand, the senior staff, a lot of people, actually I have a pipeline of people wanting to come and work in SnapIT. So I'm blessed to have that network of people wanting to join. So we've been good on attrition.
Thank you. That's a wonderful position to be in. And this is a question. This comes from Ranjani. What is one business decision, a risk that you took in your early days as an entrepreneur that you are really glad that you took?
Even before 2 months within the time frame of me leaving IBM and starting SnapIT, I landed in a really huge client. And we were trying to solve their problem and kind of got caught into a lot of turmoil. What happened is they asked me, when the product was ready to go into market, they realized their legal team said she gets the IP because she has the brains behind the product. So what they asked me to do is, hey, we are the biggest client you have. We would love to have you join. They approached it nicely first, and we would love for you to come in as a CTO of the company. You can see the growth of the trajectory of our product. Go ahead and dissolve SnapIT and come on over. I said, thank you, but no thank you. I don't think that's the decision. I know you're my biggest client, but that's not where I wanted to go. So within a few weeks, the issue escalated quite a bit, to a stage where they started approaching my team members, and not all of them, but few of them, especially people who were not here, who were distributed across the world. And even people here were approached, and within a few days, I had to take a decision on what I need to do, right? This is big checks coming our way, right? They had 3 months worth of our work stuck. We go quarter by quarter. So they thought I would suck them into, and frankly speaking, maybe that would have been a wise thing to do, but it was not me, right? So the biggest decision that I had taken within close to 8 months of starting SnapIT, maybe even sooner, was the knowledge that separating the ignorance part of me that I did not evaluate my client rightly, right, to the amount of work that we have done, and going further, yes, I have to pay my people, no matter if they pay me or not. And I can't go to the court right now because I want to be a company that is growing. I don't want to sue my first client or second client or whatever that is. So I had to take a decision to let go, right, and suck in all that losses that came through SnapIT, and wiped out a lot of, there were times when I would go cash out my credit card and pay my people. So my family said, I know you've put in a lot on this. You're more worthy than this. Maybe we don't know what the heck it is. It's a wild world out there. So why don't you consider taking up a job? And that's what, that was the key decision for me. And I said, there is no going back.
Yeah.
I asked for 3 years. Don't talk to me. I mean, you can talk to me, but let's not have even a question about it for 3 years. And I'm only eight months into it. So let's go forward. I know I'm taking a huge risk, but remember, I know my skill. I think I've mastered my skill. That is there. I've done my research on this model. I'm going forward. I've had my community. Yes, my client has failed. In this case, I've done a bad job identifying the right kind of clients. So I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to move forward. Within 6 more months after that, I not only recovered whatever I lost in there, I made double that. Mm-hmm. So, but that decision of going back and finding a job, could have been a wise thing to do financially. Please, if you're in that situation, think really well on where we are heading. I may be a little more adamant at that point to not go back. I don't want you to repeat that. It was a huge risk. But I'm happy that I did. And I did work based on not my emotions, but the skill and the research. And I knew it'll come back, right? If them bullying me about doing this is their problem, right? I get exposed to this and do mistake once, it's their problem. The second time, it's my problem. Right. So, yeah.
Thank you. And I think you make a very good point there. And I think this is something that is not talked about a lot in the entrepreneurial books that we read about entrepreneurs' journeys, right? Which is, especially in the beginning, there are times when you're trying to bring something from, your thought processes into this world. I think it's akin to, trying to create something out of thin air. And I think the forces typically are against you, right? Most of the time. And how you survive there is all dependent on the grit and the research. Are you riding the right wave? So I think it's very important to realize that those kind of things you're going to run into. The last company that we were building, there was a client that got us into Forbes at one point of time. But then again, we ran into the IP issues, and we stood our ground, and we were so glad that we stood our ground. At that point of time, it didn't look like a good idea. But again, as you say, knowing what you're doing is very, very important. So thank you for sharing that. The next question I have is, what are your, and this comes from Maria.
That's a great question. The way I would say you can handle this is there are aspects of all of us that remove ourselves from a co-collaborating environment, right? Very small things. If you stand back and observe your team when they're interacting, there's small things that some of us do that will shut off certain people. It's that fight or flight kind of attitude that comes into place. I don't think we will ever hire people for wrong work, right? We hired, or we are bringing in the right kind of people for the right kind of work, right? I'm assuming you would do that first, right? The second is something that the environment is doing that is removing that aspect of, I want to do the best in this situation. As soon as a third person enters into this conversation, it becomes an extended conversation. Fourth, fifth, sixth, everything matters. The quality of a conversation changes. So when you put a team together, you actually become an observer and understand which aspects of somebody is demotivating the team. That's when underperformance happens. When we don't feel like we are valued, we are contributing, or we are able to learn. These three attributes, if checked, you are bringing the team towards a productive environment. And being the leader of the team or the accountability person of the team, your main job is to step back, hire the right person, be aggressive in bringing the right people into this room, right? That's the first step. That is your step as a leader of this organization. Don't bring in the wrong people. That's not going to happen. But when you bring in the right people, step back and observe what's happening around. If it's not going productive, there is a very few small indications that are happening. How do you step in, maybe pull somebody aside and talk, or step into the conversation and steer so that it is addressed? When they feel that they are contributing, when they feel like they are able to bring in the best of their abilities, and when they are feeling that they are learning from it, then they'll give the best. Those are the aspects that I sought. And yes, our attrition is horribly low. I mean, seriously low. But even in IBM, I managed 200 plus employees, IBM employees in multiple countries. The biggest problem was because the culture in different countries were not embedding, they were acting as if they're 3 or 4 different companies under the same umbrella of IBM. So as soon as I came in, if that IBM in Brazil doesn't work out, then India, you're a failure too. If India, you're not working out, Brazil, you're a failure too, because we're all a team. So now let's rethink about what we are doing. Was the aspect that we could bring in. I hope I answered.
Thank you. Thank you, Maria. And Neelima, we have probably, I think, time for 2 more questions. So the next question comes from Lucy.
So I guess you have 2 or 3 part questions. The first part is what makes me wake up from my bed. When I started SnapIT, I started it with money was not on my top mind. I've been blessed to have a good job and financially was not struggling to make 2 ends meet. So, blessed to have that environment. So I was always on what motivates me. Understanding my journey was, how do I make an impact? That was the biggest aspect. Do I not want financial gain for it? Absolutely, I want financial gain. But what really motivates me was the impact. Not every day is the same, but I will say most of the days, I also get tired, and weekends I'm washed out for sure. But most of my days, I'm excited to get out of the bed because I can see that impact happen because of what I'm working on and because of what my team is working on. So I would say I started this journey as an entrepreneur wanting to wake up that way. I put a business model in place where it is hitting my passion, right? I am connected directly to that core passion of making an impact because it's there and it's still intact and compact and not diluted and not changed or diverted. I'm able to get up because it's naturally what my passion is. If naturally somebody's passion is to make big money, build your business like that. If that's what makes you get up out of bed because you're making big money, build your business that way. And if it is, I want to really have an innovative process. I have to be an innovator. I have to create things. Build your business that way. Because that is directly connected to who we are as human, and our passion wakes us up every day. It's so much excitement sometimes I can't sleep. So that's the fun part of this. And when I have bad days, when I have terrible days, I can't really think of many terrible days. Luckily, at least the past 3 years, I have somebody to pick up a phone or at home to talk to. But do not go off so blind that we think we are all we need. No, we need our people. We need our support system. It's phenomenal how your support system can bring you back into that zone. So that's how I wake up every day. Connect your work with your passion. Do not let anybody tell you otherwise, because money and financial and everything will follow suit. if you are passionate about doing it. That's the truth, at least on my side. The other part of Kenya, I have friends in Nigeria. My advisors are Ade Mobugunjo. Navroop knows it. He's from Africa as well. We speak so much about African culture, very similar to being Indian culture. Both of them are like the oldest in human race. So I can speak days to you about where we all came from. I think one aspect of what I see is there is so much of external influence on Africa still, right? The unity between in the country will repel the external bad forces. Whatever makes Africa united, go back to that core. Who as a country, what do you all believe and love as a country? Reinvent or resurface that, right? If it is people, if it is food, if it is music, if it is whatever that is, bring that out and let that unite your communities. At this point, when you all are divided, external factors are taking over. If there is an influence that you can think of, unite that. Unite internally, and then you can become stronger. I think health is a huge aspect of Africa. My friend in Nigeria is a doctor as well. He says, Neelima, you are needed in Africa and come in Godspeed. God knows. When you said Kenya someday, I said, I will be there. It's a dreamland for me. It truly is. But start telling your story internally. A lot of external stories make the land look like it's not approachable. Technology is in your hands right now. A simple iPhone can change the world. So how do you tell your story rather than others tell your story? What makes the entire communities come together? That would be something I would invest on. Obviously, we are all suffering from health problems and health-related, medical related issues. But love your doctors for doing what they are doing. That's phenomenal.
Thank you. Thank you, Neelima. That was
Thank you.
Yeah, that was great. I think we're almost run out of time. I think the last thing I do want to point out, what you mentioned is, I think a lot of the people who have gathered here today and the EATV, I think one of the common patterns and themes that attract us all together is this idea of human-centered approach to entrepreneurship and to growth and to economies. And I think one of the questions I personally always wonder is, you have to start thinking about, who are we catering to, who are we serving? And that starts with, your family, then your community, and then the larger community. And I think that circle needs to continuously grow and not, become limited. But also, I think serving your immediate communities, before we start to think about, much larger world is probably one good way to for your personal success and also make a difference, right? And so you have a very good point, which is like especially in the developing world, how do we think about entrepreneurship? I think we need more people like you are thinking more about how are the global empires being built and how what is the goal that entrepreneurs should play serving the communities that are smaller and developing. So I want to give you the last 1 minute to talk about any message that you have for our budding entrepreneurs here who are from all across the globe.
One single message I can give is understand yourself more. The journey is inward before it is outward. Understanding who we are and what we respond to is the most important thing. Sometimes we are so caught up in so many things that we don't understand ourselves completely. Maybe somebody you love and trust could guide you through, and take the feedback, remove ego and put it aside, because ego is not going to help us. It's sometimes ego in getting better at what we are doing is good, but the journey is inward. Understand aspects of yourself, understand what superpowers you have that you didn't realize. Trust me, you'll find all kinds of superpowers when you're going through this journey. I didn't know I could do that. And, those are the things, aspects of who we are, and then how we all are connected. Like the Avatar movie has the roots connected with everybody. We are all connected. I'm connected to Lucy in Kenya, I'm connected to Navroop in Hawaii. We are all connected. What does that mean? When we go inward, sometimes we hit that node where we can make others work for our mission. And that's the most beautiful impact you can have. Because we can not do it all by ourselves.
Thank you so much, Neelima. And with that, I think we end our session, but thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk to our EITs. And
my pleasure.
I'm pretty confident we'll have we'll continue this conversation. This won't be the last. This will be the first of many.
Best luck for everybody.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone on the EIT team as well for making the time to be a part of this discussion. We had a lot more questions, but the time is the limitation. But up until next time. So thank you so much.